All right, what's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the DenofTruth. It's your boy Tino, and today I got someone who wears many hats. Someone who's been within the entertainment industry in Australia for a long period of time. Many hats in regards to being a DJ, event promoter, club promoter, um, artist manager, a little bit of everything. But yeah, today we got Ziggy. So Ziggy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, no worries, man. You were very heavily requested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that
you're
from
big
the
ups to
fans.
you. Yeah.
Shout out all the people that are tuning in, like to the Den of Truth, man. This is really some good shit, and even I'm someone that was tuning in too. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Can we really swear on here and stuff too?
Yeah,
But,
don't worry. We're under
I'm
E.
gonna take that back.
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
but
no, we're under E, so
Yeah.
we're under explicit, so we
Yep.
can swear
All right, my
and
bad, my
talk.
bad.
No, all good. No, all good. But yeah, look. So Ziggy, I've been seeing you do a lot of things for a long period of time. Working with a lot of artists. I've seen you work with artists, then I've seen them blow. And a lot of people have seen that as well. So I think we were talking a little bit about this off air. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was one of the things that I like that you're doing is that you're really changing the narrative for a lot of people who are in Western Sydney, right? And a lot of people call it the area. It's hard to explain what the area is, but if you're from the area, you know what the area is, right?
Pretty much, man.
So look, you've done a lot of things. So, we get some merch dropping about the area, and you work with a lot of people from the area. So, can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up and why is that so important to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I grew up in Bankstown.
Yeah.
That's my area. Yeah, and I guess that's just like I love the experience that I got from that. From
Yeah.
growing from the time that I remember growing. A big thing that resonated with me was like when I was in preschool, or like when I was just small. For some reason, I remember like thinking that all Asians were Chinese and
Yeah.
all Samoans all Pacific Islanders were Samoans, just
Yeah.
because they were my direct neighbors. They were my direct neighbors, you know what I mean? So, but when I went to primary school, that opened my mind because I met all the different types of Asians or different types of Pacific Islanders, and then that was kind of experience from the very start. So
Yeah.
I know that's the kind of experience that to us it feels normal, but to some places you don't get that at all, So
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you
um,
come out to here, like some of these areas here, and it's just all one nationality, or even going to uni is one nationality. I'm like, that restricts you so much. Like,
Yeah.
just growing up just with one group of people.
100%, man, 100%. So yeah, man, that's kind of where I've been based. But through my teenage years, I've been everywhere. Like I've got friends everywhere. We used to go to parties everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like from Blacktown to Livo to Parramatta, just everywhere, man. But a lot of time in Liverpool because that's where my cousin was at, and
Yeah.
kicked it with a lot of the Livo boys out there too. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's kind of what kind of formed me to be who I am. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess that being said, you've been in the entertainment industry for a long period of time, so you've been able to sort of see it evolve,
Yeah.
whether that be from Western Sydney to, coming out towards the city. So I guess, what have you sort of seen in Western Sydney that you really like? Because I know you've been doing a lot of outreach programs to
Yeah.
out in Western Sydney, so can you just talk a little bit about that, and what about in Western Sydney do you like so much?
I think personally, I feel like the mix of the cultures together,
Yeah.
then comes together to create a new culture. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like a lot of us are like we're sons of immigrants, or so it's like we're literally as an African Australian, like
Yeah.
we're literally the first African Australians. You know what I mean?
That's
like
weird. That's weird.
so it's
Yeah.
like the identity that we're forming is like it's brand new to us.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it. And then even bigger to that is like traveling overseas to Europe and the UK and stuff. Is like, man, their places are so similar to us because they got similar thing where maybe they might be second generation and stuff, but
Yeah.
similar thing where it's immigrant culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, just like we really resonate with the UK Africans now too, because like we can see like that they're just like us. You know what I mean? Like even before, like we were dressing like them and stuff like that before we even knew that they dressed like that too. And it's like, damn, that's crazy that even happens. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, that's a big part of what I like, like just the fact that there's all these cultures together that just kind of infused to create something new, So
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, don't worry about it. But anyways, I get this shit a lot. So
Yeah.
if you guys can't see this, we got someone at the window
man.
trying to get in. He ain't getting in. We're not gonna cut that out. But yeah, so like in regards to what you said, That's one thing I always try to emphasize to people. Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's the organic stuff, man.
Yeah,
Like,
the shit earlier than
it
the
is
truth,
what it
man.
is,
We get that shit.
man.
So yeah, look, that being said, I like what you said just in regards to like us being first generation African, because I grew up with a lot of like Europeans and Lebanese friends. I'm out towards like Fairfield, Withrow Park,
Yeah.
and Italians, and they say that, for example, some of them have been here 5 generations, 6 generations.
Yeah.
So they're all able to sort of establish themselves financially. They have like large families in Australia. They've got really good structures. But us African Australians, like, we're really. I came here in 2000, and people will always talk to me like, "Man, you've been here for ages." But really, I'm an immigrant.
Yeah.
Like, I got Australian citizenship. I'm an immigrant.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born here. So, whereabouts you from? What's your background?
My dad's from Ghana, and my mum is Aussie. So
Aussie. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in Bankstown. How was that being sort of? You were probably the first biracial African to sort of in that area. How was that?
Actually, I don't know if I can remember other biracials, but we attracted to other biracials, and we stood out. But even in that, like when we were growing up in Bankstown, there wasn't even many black people too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, literally, like, you pretty much knew all the black people there at a certain point, and then it just got a bit like, it got to a point where you didn't, you know.
Yeah.
But before that, it was like whenever you see someone, it's like, you'd always be looking because you know them, and then it's like, yo.
Yeah.
But then it started being like, you're looking because you think you know them, but then you realize, oh, I don't know them, and they're doing the same to you, and then it's like, there's that awkward,
that's
you
like
know, black man nod.
Yeah,
you know?
that's like an international thing, man. That black man nod.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of when I hang out with a lot of my non-black friends, and because you know, every black person I see, I nod. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
So they're always asking me, man, do you know that guy? Do you know that guy? Like, it's got to a point where like they're just like, I know you don't know that guy, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, 100%, man.
So what were some of your early influences in Australia? Like, what were your early music influences?
I mean, personally, like, growing up, I wasn't really that in touch with music. Whatever was kind of just put forward was what I was listening to. So whatever was on the radio and what was on TV hits, you know, or Rage, you know. So, you know, I was growing up, you know, singing Backstreet Boys, you know, singing
just the Rage
Jagged
stuff.
Edge, you know, singing all that stuff, you know. Obviously, your Tupacs and Biggies coming on, you know, like all the hip hop stuff that filtered through the Ja Rules, all that, you know. But I feel like in my teenage years, it's like when I started hanging around more so my cousin and just kind of a bit older boys, you know, they really opened my mind to music and stuff like that. And to be honest, they were rappers themselves, and that's what really I was drawn to, you know, K1 and what they were doing, man. So
okay, no worries. So, you know, you was obviously the older influences and your older cousins that sort of got you into music. Yeah. So when did you sort of decide that music was for you? When did you decide that this is sort of one of the things that I wanted to pursue?
I think it started like just from being around people that did music. There was a passion because I believed in what they were doing so much that I wanted people to hear it. That kind of sparked a passion for music at first. And then even beyond that, like I was very much on the internet a lot, like the MySpace days, you know, like even,
MySpace, I wasn't there. That was me, yeah.
Like when K1 started, like I started their MySpace, like you guys need a MySpace, you know, like, and they had no idea what that was, you know.
Yeah.
But like, and then from that, like I was always looking and finding music then, and I feel like that's kind of when it started, you know, like I started to find music and all that, but not thinking anything of it. Like I just was finding music and I thought, oh, this is dope. I want to share it with people, you know?
Yeah.
And I started a blog even on MySpace, like sharing music. But I didn't think anything of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then love.
when it actually hit me, it was like after I left school, I started like, I was on Centrelink and like, you know, they started saying you actually have to go in because you say you're looking for a job and they pay you Centrelink.
Yeah.
And like we were doing nothing, you know, like this and that, and they're like, oh, you have to actually go into the spot and actually look for a job in the spot. And I'm like, oh, this is a bit hectic, you know. So then I started doing TAFE just to kind of do something, you know.
Yeah.
But at that point, it was like I didn't really know what I was gonna do, you know.
Yeah.
So, and at that same point, the K1 guys, their DJ was kind of falling out of DJing a bit, and then that's where that slot kind of filled, where they needed a DJ. And it's like I'm always around, and I even started to learn DJing off the DJ. So I was like, oh man, I might as well be the DJ. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where that started. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool story, man. I think everyone starts from somewhere. I used to actually work for Job Active, and I used to be sort of a part of that.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed is that a lot of people who are on the Centrelink, it's not everyone is sort of just dole bludging. It's just a lot of young people that just don't know where they're sort of going yet. You know what I mean?
Man.
And it's great to see, like, I think a lot of people, especially when you're young, straight out of high school, like, that period when you finish the HSC, and you got all of that spare time, and it's you're either going to uni, and some people don't want to go to uni, and then there's that long period of you can't really get a good job. You're sort of stuck between retail or working casually somewhere, and you don't really know what you want to do. I think a lot of people are really stuck in that space, but they have their passion.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to follow it.
Yeah.
And sort of how to get into it.
So
I guess what is your I guess biggest advice to people who are sort of in that space? Because people see you and they probably never thought that you would have gone through that stage. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people going through that period of time. Because I remember even when I was in school, that period of time was a bit of a trip.
Yeah.
I was lucky I got into HSC. I don't know. I got into uni. Still to this day, I don't know how I got into uni, but I went to Macquarie, so I had something to fill that time. So I guess what is your sort of advice to people who are going through that period of time?
I guess for right now, it's like there's a massive opportunity where like the path doesn't necessarily have to be uni. You know what I mean? Like you can already start doing what you want to do, and you can actually get experience right now. As opposed to like there is some, it depends on what field and what your passion is, but there's some places where you can just go and get experience right now, whether that be work experience or whether you just pick up something and do it yourself, It's a very like it's obviously now's the time where you can be an entrepreneur, like that type of stuff. But on the flip side, like my advice would be like start early, like get a job to then support your hobby or your passion. You know what I mean? Like invest in your passion early, because that's gonna just help you elevate quicker. You know what I mean? And that's something that I didn't really do early. Like I wasted a lot of time, which was like we did our thing. Like we had fun, we did whatever. But as you mature, like. You can't control your maturity, but if you're mature early, you can obviously set yourself up in the future earlier. You know what I mean?
It's definitely. I think that's cool though, that you've had sort of that progression. But so you went through that period of time, and then you started DJing, obviously, with the group, and then sort of what was the sort of progression? So I know you were in radio. So how was your radio experience, and how long was that sort of DJing and
I guess the progression was like before I wanted to be a DJ, I wanted to do radio. That was in my head kind of too, like from the blog stuff to actually think of it. And people that were really influenced me on that was like Clinton Sparks, and then this other guy, DJ Mr. Fat as well, who's actually from like he was here in Australia, and I used to hear him on the radio. Like they just brought a whole different flavor, both of them, to the radio. And like I said, I came up like listening to the radio and listening to the TV a lot. You know what I mean? So when I heard that different stuff on there, it really stood out to me a lot. And I used to always tune in. Like let's say their show was Wednesday at 8 o'clock. I'd always tune in. Stuff like that. So they really stood out for me. So I guess the journey was like, even at the start of my DJ career, I made like a remix to a song that kind of blew up. I went viral. It was like comedic. It wasn't really under my name, but it was kind of something that helped me then get a lot of house parties and get a lot of gigs. So there was a period of like a year and 2 years where I was just doing like house parties like nearly every week, man. Just house parties.
When was that? When was that period? Because I remember there were a lot of red cup parties. I guess if you're my age, like, cause do you remember that period of time when everyone was doing house parties? And then they started getting shut down by the police? Was that that period of time?
I mean, there was a lot of house parties. So
you could be the cause, man.
But I mean, a lot of them were birthday parties. You know what I mean? But it was a thing, like, and at the same time you had under 18s as well and stuff like that. But so that kind of went for a while, and by that time I was already out clubbing, and I met a few people that wanted to even put me on to DJ at their clubs, but I just felt like it was too early. Like I wanted to keep doing house parties for a while, get my experience up, and then eventually I delved into the DJing in the club, which was dope too. And then just got into the night scene, and then I was doing house parties and leaving the house party, going to the club and DJing. So it was good. Like that was like I was building my name really, really like that. And then from that, started doing mixtapes, like to share music. Just really like,
Mixtape.
yeah, like just like,
Yeah, I've honestly haven't heard anyone say a mixtape in a while.
yeah,
That's,
nah,
yeah.
100%, man. That's a lot of people know me for the mixtapes, like,
Yeah,
so
that was
yeah,
a thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'd stand out at concerts and hand them out too and stuff like that. So
Damn,
yeah,
that's a
man,
grind.
yeah, man, just you know, I had the juice in there. Like
Yeah.
everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I really took a passion to like finding music
Yeah.
and like curating it to a fact to educate people. You know, rather than just playing like what anyone had already heard. You know what I mean? So that was a big part of it.
And was that hard? I mean, what made you want to, I guess, stay outside of concerts and really get that music out? Because that's not easy.
Yeah.
Especially after a concert. You know, look, you know, it's late. No one, you know,
Yeah.
it's a hard ask for somebody who doesn't want to do it.
To be honest, because I know that if they take that CD and they put it in their car, they're gonna love it. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
Yeah.
And because the fact of the matter is, you know, you're picking a concert that you're going to.
Yeah.
So it's a hip hop or it's an R&B concert, and I'm giving them a hip hop and R&B CD. And even some of the CDs would be different. If it's an R&B concert, it might have been an R&B CD.
Yeah.
And I know that if you're a fan of, let's say, Jeremiah or something, you're gonna be a fan of this CD. So like that's kind of where it was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what kind of broke the barrier. But you know, I mean, like some people might look at you like, oh, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to be honest, I wanted to make sure people heard the music, so I didn't even care about that noise.
Can't
You know
knock
what I mean?
anyone's hustle.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, and then obviously you did that. You got sort of a bigger name for yourself, and then you got into radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think now, do you still reckon radio is very relevant? Like, do you still think it's important for artists to really need radio? Because a lot of the songs that I listen to, a lot of them just break over the internet. Like, I literally don't read them. I didn't hear them over the radio.
Yeah.
And I was talking to this with Franco. You know, we were talking about the different ways artists and different channels that artists have now. I mean, even look at Old Town Road. That literally was on everywhere on social media before it was on radio.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then eventually they started marketing it and I guess pushing it out.
I guess there's different levels to it. Like this music industry and getting music out there's like all these different channels.
Yeah.
So it's like if you can tap into as many channels as possible, you're gonna give yourself more of a chance to, you know, make that track something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, there are certain things that pop up on one channel, like, and then if the others flow, but radio is definitely very influential still, you know, like, here you've got you got the pop stations, you got the Edge, and then you've got Triple J and like FBI who like help like break music. So like Triple J, for instance, they've got a platform where, you know, it's very grassroots. It actually helps break music, you know what I mean? It's being very well thought out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like something like the Edge, it's like when a track gets on there, it's like me as a DJ in the club, I know I can play it in the club because like for instance, a track that I knew kind of was influenced by that was like kind of like Ty Dolla $ign Wavy. Like that song was on the Edge. And like it was like in the club, like you could play it, like, you know, and everyone like went off to it like it's the next level song, but really it's just as good as any other Ty Dolla $ign song. You know what I mean? But like because it was on the radio, it kind of took it to another level. Like you know what I mean?
I sort of always wanted to know what that correlation was because I noticed with a lot of DJs, especially my friends who are DJs, they will play particular music in particular places. Yeah. And then when I would ask them, you know, why don't you just play the lit shit?
Yeah,
but he's sort of playing the more commercial stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they start talking to me about their audiences, and sometimes the club would tell them, like, and I
club
think that's wild. You know, how can you go to a club and they tell you they play this, they play that? Is that still a thing? Like,
definitely, man, because they're businesses at the end of the day. So
yeah,
depends who's telling you that. But like, for instance, I just played a gig the other time. They're like, don't play any Afro or any trap, and I'm like, you can't book me and tell me that. You know what I mean? Like,
how does that work?
Like
in 2019,
you know. But that's because apparently the police were cracking down on them, though. You know what I mean? So
it's like sort of levels like that.
There's a lot of levels, man. Yeah.
Shit, I feel like Afro pop, that's a wave.
But
man.
not even to that level. To the level where like they're racist and like they don't like the police are like racist in a way that they don't want a certain type of people attracted to your event. Because you know there could be a certain chance of something happening and this that, you know what I mean, like so
I remember Ivy trying to play that. I remember and this is a true story. My homeboy Stanley can vouch for me. We went to Ivy one night and they just wouldn't let black people in.
Yeah.
And then we went to security, and we were like 19, regular black dudes, like just
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
looking teenagers at that time. Went to security, we had like, and like we had girls, like, and they were just our friends, you
Yeah.
know. So usually when you have a place like Ivy, you need to actually go with girls.
Yeah,
And we were like
yeah.
19 at that time, and they were actually just friends. And then they said the girls could go in, but we couldn't, and we were like, why? And I didn't think the security was supposed to say this, but he was just like, we're not letting Africans into that.
Yeah,
And then then when he said that, I looked to the right,
That's right.
and I see a bunch of brothers just standing there in the corner.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And a bunch of police. So I definitely attest to you when you said that, but that's a true story. So and I've definitely seen that, like when
Yeah.
police tried to like
Yeah,
put the brothers to the
100%,
side,
man.
or
Yeah, there's different levels to this thing, you know. That's the beauties of living in Australia. But I guess to go back on the point of like being told what to play, like there's also certain event promoters or whoever else who's kind of trying to curate their night in a way that, like, you know, for instance, you don't want the same track being played 5 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you want
I
to make
guess so,
sure
yeah.
each DJ is playing different stuff compared to what time they're on and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there are different levels to it, but yeah, you know, yeah.
Is what it is. So after you say, you know, you've been in the scene for a long time, DJing, going, working in different clubs. So you guys are sort of a bit of a name for yourself. You've been on radio. People know, you know, who you are. So how did you get into artist management? I mean, I can imagine it being extremely difficult for you guys because, you know, at that time, I don't think there would have been so many studios or so many people who would want, I guess, hip hop acts, you know, flourishing. So how did you sort of get into artist management, and how did you guys sort of deal with it early?
Yeah, I guess for me it was like, what happened is like there was a studio that we used to work out of in Alexandria,
Yep.
and then like a couple of the peeps there, like Manny and stuff too, like they decided to start their own studio in another place in that same kind of complex, and
Yep.
they started that, and they ran that for like a couple years, and then like a bunch of the people were moving out.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with Manny. He's just like, you know, these people are moving out. I don't know what to do, if we keep it open or what. I'm like, nah, for sure, let's keep it open. I'll
Yeah.
get some people, you get some people, and like we'll get this place going, you know. So like that's when, like, for instance, I brought like in Miracle, Manu, Wise. You know, he had like Dopamine, just like Will
Shit.
Star, different cats too, and like, you know, like it kind of organically all happened. Like, you know, all those people were hungry for a studio. There was the opportunity for the studio. So like, you know, it just all came together. And that really became a big hub, you know, for like where everyone bounced off each other. Like everyone in there was at a dope level already. So like when they all came together, like they helped even get to that next level as well.
Yeah.
And from that, like I was doing my DJing thing, I was doing my radio thing then. That's why I was more so in the studio, because I wanted to have a place where I could focus on just that side of things. And then just from being in there, like, man, these guys are creating some crazy stuff, you know what I mean? I'm just like, they're dropping stuff and all this, and, you know, I take a step back and I'm like, man, this is so good that it needs to be like heard by more people. It's not getting the recognition that it needs to get. So I took a step back and I'm like, what's missing here? You know what I mean? Like the management is missing, the business side is missing, you know what I mean? Like the talent, the creation and all that's there, but the business side was missing a lot. So, you know, that's where I felt like, yeah, that is a big gap here. And it's like, even if I was to try and be like, hey, let's try and find you guys someone, like I didn't even know where to look to. So I just felt like it's a skill that I could probably start to do, and I feel like I had a big passion for it, you know, believing in artists so much that, you know, it's like whatever it takes to kind of try and level them up, you know. So that's kind of where that kind of came from.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, that's dope, man. It's good for people to hear and people to see that it didn't happen overnight. Like you didn't wake up like, you know, yesterday and sort of want to become a manager. It was sort of a lot of work. So even with the studio, so you guys felt like you needed to, or out of necessity, you guys needed to work together. You know, it was it extremely hard for you guys to, I guess, branch out, or at that time, you know, there was limited resources, limited structure, so you guys.
You mean like work together in one studio? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Was it just out of necessity?
No, it was necessity that everyone wanted their space.
Yeah.
And that studio in itself was 6 different rooms. You know what I mean? So it was like everyone had their own rooms. You know what I mean? So that's basically what it was. Like it was just a place where like everyone felt like they felt they were good at what they do, and they wanted to make it like a more of a serious thing. So, you want to get in the studio. You don't want to just be in your bedroom the whole time. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of that's the jump that everyone just wanted to make then.
yeah.
Or if you're not doing that jump, then you're actually paying to be in the studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's too
Whereas like
expensive,
if
yeah.
you're paying this type of lease, like it's because it's a long lease and stuff like that, it works out very well.
Yeah,
So
financially for everyone.
yeah.
Okay, no worries. So, I mean, that's cool. So, I guess from an early age, I guess from an early stage, you got to see people like Manu, Blessed, um, Be Wise from an early stage. And I guess for other artists who are watching, what are some of the things that you saw that were really positive that they were doing that you feel like other artists should follow?
Um, from the early stages onwards, it's like I feel like a big part of it is that like nearly every artist needs time to develop.
Yeah,
Um, so like for instance, when Manu started doing his thing, obviously he did the SYD kid stuff, but then he kind of took that back, and then he started developing his own thing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He didn't rush into like what that looked like. Like he like recorded a lot of tracks. He took his time with it type thing. So
yeah,
that was a very good thing that I saw. Like, you know what I mean? Just working out what your brand is, what you're gonna present to the world, stuff like that. Obviously
yeah,
today's age is so easy to just release music and just put your songs out and stuff like that. When
yeah,
you might not be thinking that deep into like, all right, this is my brand or something like that. You know
yeah,
what I mean? This is what I want to be known for, or you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you don't need to think that deep because you naturally do it.
yeah,
But like, it's good to understand that that's what it is, because like at the end of the day, if you want to take this serious, what you really are, you're a business at the end of the day. Like
yeah,
creatively, like you're an artist, but like there's certain ways that you can look at things as well. Where like it's gonna make sure that there's longevity in what you're doing too.
most
So,
definitely. Yeah. And I think that's with everything. I think the people who tend to do well, they tend to see anything they do as a business. Like
yeah.
I was talking to the guy, my barber Trey, and he told me it was like because he makes pretty good coin. Like he does
Yeah.
quite well for himself. And then he goes, and then I asked him, so why don't you have an apprentice? Like you should have more people.
Yeah.
And he goes to me, he's like, a lot of people here they think cutting hair is a hobby. Like this is a business. This is a profession. And I think a lot of people don't. And I don't think it's their fault necessarily. I think that's what mentoring and having people that have paved the way for you get a bit more of an understanding.
100%.
So it's great to see I think a lot of artists should take and put forward that more business sort of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, and where do you think that artists go wrong? Because you've probably been around a lot of artists and seen a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you think is the most common mistake?
I think one is like a gift and a curse, where like you can be just so in your head
Yeah,
that like it stops you from doing stuff.
yeah,
But sometimes that's good in a way that like you overthink things and you make the right decision. But sometimes artists can overthink things and then not even make decisions. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's one thing where it's kind of a fine line. You know what I mean? Another thing is like I said, rushing to the market, rushing to get your stuff out. Like it takes time. Like your first song is not going to be as good as your 50th song and your 100th song. And if it is as good, anyway, your skills are going to be better anyway. You're going to be producing more and more good content, because I guess right now a big part of it is momentum.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So if you record 50 songs, you might back up like 10 really dope songs. That means you got 10 really dope songs that you can release over time. Whereas like if you just get in, you record your first 10 songs, even if you record your first few songs and you drop something, it's like you don't even have what you got next ready or whatnot. So that's one thing. I think being patient at the start is something that's not really out there at the moment. But at the same, there's like the thing is, there's 100 ways that you can do this. There's even 1,000 ways. There's so many ways that you can make being an artist a career. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
not just one way to do things. But yeah, that's a couple things.
Yeah. I mean, look,
What
I
else?
think people just don't have patience, and I get it though. Like I honestly get it.
Yeah.
If you wake up one day and say, okay, I want to be a musician, and you start seeing people like you start comparing. You look at, for example, like Future.
Yeah.
And you know how to say this guy's probably been in the game 15, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
He's had all this time to create a team, to create a structure. He's got a brand. He's got all this experience. He's probably recorded over 100,000 songs. You know,
Yeah.
he's taken that time to get to where he needs to get.
Yeah.
You know, people then, and I guess it's hard, man. Like, especially when you want to get to what you want to get to as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to sort of to get there. So, you know, you guys got the studio, and then when did you start, you know, working with Manu? Because with Manu, the first time I saw Manu and sort of Blessed at the same time, you know, and that was under 18 events. I was one of those kids.
Yeah,
yeah, that was yeah. And I was like, shit, man. For me personally, I thought it was just dope seeing like Africans do shit.
Yeah.
Like for me, it wasn't even that they were artists. It was just like shit. I thought because when I was about 16, because I grew up in Cabramatta.
Yeah.
You know, so I grew up with a bunch of Asians, and then I went to Fairfield, so I grew up with a bunch of Europeans.
Yeah.
So I shit you not, like, besides my family, I did not see any black people.
Yeah.
Like literally, people think I'm over exaggerating.
Yeah.
I did not see any black people till I got to the age of like 16, and then I started like going towards different areas, and I was like, shit, there's black people out there.
100%.
Then I saw, I'm being for real. People think I'm being for real.
No, it's true.
And then I got to see those guys doing what they were doing, and I was like, shit, that's cool. Fast forward, I was 18, and then I got to see them at clubs, and I was like, okay, shit, they're doing their thing at clubs.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, Manu's dropping Song of the Year, Manu's doing all these numbers. So I guess how was it like for you to start working with Manu, and how was that progression to where he is now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we were always kicking it from like since we were teenagers. Basketball, just we were the ones going to the parties and stuff, just like hanging out. So like where that kind of went into is like we started dancing and stuff like that, and just hanging out, and like then they formed their crew where like I was essentially the DJ of that crew, and then from there it's like that was like the first kind of working relationship where I was kind of the DJ, and they were the artists / dancers, and then from there like I started working with Miracle as well as a DJ. And then like that's when Manu took that break, took from leaving the group, kind of took a step back and kind of just worked on his own craft. And then he dropped a couple tracks, and when he dropped one, it started making some real noise, And at that time, that's when I already just started managing another artist. That's like my first official artist that I actually started with, and like. That was Amber Rose. Like we started working together, and at that time, like I always saw what Manu was doing, and it was dope. But I felt like I didn't really want to get into that side of things because I was still early to the management as well, so I was still learning. But what ended up happening is like just people started hitting him up. A lot of people, like a lot of emails, different things like that. But he wasn't really onto like like how to respond to them or stuff like that. So I started helping out there, just like, all right, let me help you there, you know what I mean? And we started setting up a lot of meetings with different people, and then obviously a lot of different guys came in who wanted to actually manage him as well. So we took a lot of meetings, and I tried to kind of help find that right manager for him. And then it kind of ended up being that like Thomas, who's the manager now, me and him co-manage, you know what I mean? So it kind of like it worked in a way where like we felt like that was right, and let's explore it, you know what I mean? And for me, it was like, all right, let me be a part of this now. If it's not working out, I can always, get off, because we don't know how good Thomas is, at the moment, you know what I mean? So it's better if I'm kind of involved still, and then vice versa, like, and we're still going strong today. So man. Damn.
So that was a progression thing. You were just helping out as the homie, and then it sort of organically happened.
Yeah, man.
And man, like he's killed it, like, especially. This at the beginning of this year, especially with the Rolling Loud concert, I was like, shit, man, we got an Australian act really just out here doing this thing. I mean, that would have been exciting for you guys to see that. I mean, it was a long time coming.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man, just to actually make it to that kind of platform. You know what I mean? Because that's probably like the biggest hip hop festival. Like it's basically based on urban music. Like solely. You know what I mean? Like there's no other music on that really, you know what I mean? So it's like that's like the biggest hip hop festival. Like it's crazy, and like just the levels of it and stuff like that, and just even the fact that they didn't necessarily even have to put us on, man. Like they showed that love because they obviously we were on Rolling Loud in Sydney. Which was dope, and shout out to the guys there, the team there, the hardstyle guys and Ricey and all that too. Like they put us on through that, as well as like we got connected with Tariq, who's one of the co-founders of Rolling Loud as well. So, and then off that, Tariq actually watched us perform there. And I feel like he messed with the performance and the level of it and stuff. Like he's like, yo, I want you guys on for actual, the Rolling Loud Miami. Like he's just, I guess that's even how they even built my Rolling Loud, is the fact that they love to put artists on. It's not just about putting all the big ass artists on. You know what I mean? They put the grassroots artists on and kind of like curate it in a way like, yo, you need to know these artists. You know what I mean? So yeah. And
I guess just from someone who consumes the music side, seeing Rolling Loud, especially in America, and seeing how big it is, and you're seeing the different names and Rolling Loud, and their lineup is usually stacked. Like there's no weak person usually on the lineup. You're talking about probably the hottest artists at that time. They all want to be there. They all make time to be there. Just to see Manu there and seeing like an Australian act, it's like it was good to see, man. It was like a moment where it was just like shit. Like this is something that people could really inspire to reach. Yeah. And I always talk about like sometimes you don't know the moment, like when you're living in the moment, you don't know the impact that you're making. And I think that Manu is definitely, and you guys are definitely impacting a lot of people, but you just sort of don't know it because you're living in the moment, sort of thing. Yeah. So I guess when you go to America, like are Australians well received?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like that's kind of what we do, man. We like, yeah, what's up, man? I'm from Australia, bro. It's like because it kind of helps in a way, like, oh, this guy's not from here. Yeah. So definitely we're well received. I mean, Australians are known worldwide. We're a worldwide country where people know us, but not a lot of people know actually about Australia though. They know of Australia, but they don't like they might. And the fact that we're representing multicultural Australia too, where it's like, oh, some people might trip out. Oh, you got black people there? Do you know what I mean? They're not too familiar with that too. But yeah, it's definitely well received, and like I feel like now even there's meetings I went in with different labels and different meetings because I was there for business meetings too. And like within those meetings, different names are coming up, within those meetings. So it's like, all right, people are starting to pay attention. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, it's dope.
It's crazy, man. Every time I see an American guy randomly, like I was on a random night, I went to the Opera House and I saw this random American guy and he was like, man, you're the first black person I've seen here, man. I'm like, don't worry, man, we're here. Don't worry,
you gotta go to Blacktown, man.
Yeah,
that's what you always say. Oh, you got a place called Blacktown with black people?
That's the next thing they say. I'm like, I see, so where are all the black people? I'm like, yeah, come west or like Blacktown. I'm like, oh, they're playing you like that. They're doing you like that. It's like, nah, man. This is how we ended up being. It just ended up being like that, man. But and I guess where do you sort of see the Australian music scene going towards? I mean, especially because you're someone who's in it and you've seen it at a stagnant state. You've seen it at a stage where it wasn't really popping off, or it was very slow, and then now you're sort of seeing it in developing and getting bigger. So where do you think it can sort of be in the next 5 years, and what do you think is really needed?
Yeah, I guess you see like places like Toronto and the UK and how they've come up in the last like 10 years,
Yeah.
Like that's basically the direction that we can follow in. Like the UK right now is vibing, you know what I mean? There's so many dope artists. There's a proper infrastructure. There's a lot going on there, you know what I mean? Like their biggest festivals now are now they're UK artists, you know what I mean? Whereas
all UK
before
artists,
it used to be like all probably US artists or whatever it was, plus with like a couple UK here and there. But now it's shifted, so that's definitely a direction that we can go. There's a lot of talent out there, man. There's a lot, man. So it's exciting, man. And like, like at the end of the day, like probably nearly everyone like listening to this is a big part of that. Like you have a big job to play in that, whether you're an artist, you're a producer, or whether you're interested in the business or whatnot, you have a part to play in this. So I'd just say go hard at it because now's the opportunity chance. You know what I mean? Like get in now because like you can learn now while it's growing. You know what I mean? So that when it's time, like now it's time, but when it's even more of a time, like you'll be ready as well. You know what I mean? Like let's say if I didn't start like how many years ago and I'm just starting artist management now, how much can I do right now? You know what I mean? So it's like when there's a lot to do right now, so it's like
I mean, that's great. Well, man, look, I think I speak for myself and people who are in the scene, really appreciate what you guys are doing as well, because it's been a very I guess it's been a grind. You know, we've seen Australia with the stagnant state. We've seen, you know, but now we sort of see it growing. We sort of see it getting bigger. We sort of seeing, you know, a lot of international attention to come to Australia. So, you know, I think it's great what you guys are doing. I really hope that you guys keep doing it because you're influencing a lot of people. You know what I mean? You're influencing a lot of people to have a lot of energy and to, I guess, really do what they love to do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah. Well, that's it. You know, we'll end it here. Anyways, I appreciate your time.
My G, no, I appreciate you having on me. And, like, I really appreciate everyone that's listening right now. You know, shout out to you. You know, you listen this far. And, you know, like, for me personally, like, I'm the type of guy that you can just hit me up, man. My email's there, whatever it is, you know. Like, we're always looking for people that we can help, you know. Even we're trying to build stuff where we can have information sessions and all that, too, where we can just, you know, help seed the knowledge, you know. Like, we've learned stuff over the years. So, you know, we want to see more people out there doing it too, and especially more multicultural people within the music business as well. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a big part that needs to really increase here. You know, like, you know, we need more people of color in the music business side. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you know, a lot of people want to be rappers and producers, but yo, think about those business ones. If you got those A&R skills, man, the jobs are there, man. So yeah man, definitely. Shout out everyone.
Salute. All right, appreciate that.